So tonight we're going to be working on two different Christmas cookies. And both of these utilize the embossing technique. And I've used actual wafer paper, and I printed off of iPrint for the vintage cookie. And then the ornament cookie here is the embossing technique on two different pieces of Smart Sheet. And so I'll show you those. They're both relatively quick. These out of your way. And we're going to get started. First, let me show you the vintage cookie. I actually utilized the Katie Sue mold for the Nicholas Lodge collection. And this was his frame mold that I got from him in Dallas. But you can order this off of his website. And you can put your cookie dough into this, pop it out, and cook that, and it will maintain the shape of that frame. Or you can cook directly in the silicone mold. Okay. All right. So let's get started on that one. So here I have just the plain cookie that I've baked, and I utilize again that mold that we just saw. And I take my royal icing and put a little bit onto the cookie and just spread it with a brush so that I get that thin coating of royal icing. And you don't have to be precise on this because we're going to shift it around with a paintbrush that is dedicated just to food products. Okay. All right. So I just maneuver that around until I get it into all of the crevices. And I'm going to be speeding through this. I've got several of them already in different stages so that you don't have to sit here with me while I'm smearing this on and waiting for it to dry. Okay. So again, that's what we would do with that one. And boom, looky there. We have one already done. Okay. And so this one is, again, just the royal icing. It's thinner along the edges and thicker in the center. And then I would take the wafer paper that I've printed with my Icing Images printer. And I used iPrint. I found a copy of a vintage Christmas card that I liked, downloaded that into the program, and then printed that off on the size that I needed. Okay. And then that would fit right into the cookie. And the way that I attach that, I use piping gel. And you can use any brand of piping gel. And I paint that onto the back of the wafer paper and then adhere that to the cookie, turn it upside down, and then allow that to dry so that your edges do not roll up. Okay. So here we have one that's already dry. And then I'm going to embellish it with the bling highlighter around the edges so that I get that vintage look on the frame as well. Okay. And that's what it'll look like. So let me mix some of that bling highlighter for us. And I just take a little bit of the bling highlighter. And I'm actually going to spray Paper Potion into the bling highlighter in order to paint this on. Okay. Paper Potion is a fabulous product from Icing Images as well. And I utilize it to condition all of the different products that they sell on Icing Images, whether it be wafer paper, smart sheets, flex frost, whatever. Okay. So I'm just going to add some of that to my palette. And then I will take a dedicated brush for metallics, take some of the bling highlighter, add that to the Paper Potion. And then I can just simply paint that onto the cookie. And it dries almost instantly. And you can put it on as heavy or as thin as you would like. Now, the one thing about the bling highlighter, it is 100% edible. It's not just non-toxic. It is an edible FDA approved product. And it gives you a brilliant gold. Okay. And so that is what you get with that one. And guess what? That cookie is done. So how fast and easy was that? All of your work was actually done by your printer using the Icing Images edible printer. Hopefully one day I'll get one of those blue printers, the little blue.
Yeah,
it's on my wish list.
It is so much fun. We had so much fun today playing with it.
Are you going to be bringing that to Simi Retreat by chance?
No, I'm not. I'm actually going to fly in. But I will have it in Austin.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I'll have it in Austin. I'll have it at SoFlo and CookieCon.
Okay. All right. So the next cookie that we're going to work on is called the high resolution embossing. And I started utilizing this technique several months ago. And I discovered that embossing on smart sheets was the way to go instead of the parchment paper, because I liked the fact that the designs were exactly the way that they were going to look from the time that I embossed them on the smart sheet until that cookie dried. It looked the same. I didn't have problems with air bubbles or losing any of the 3-dimension that's on there. And you can use any of the embossing plates that you like. The one I'm currently using is from Icing Images as well. Let me get that into focus for me. There we go. And so this one, these are made by Spellbinders. And Deb, I think these are still available on your website. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is, while it's a Spellbinders plate, a long time ago, not a long time ago, we actually had a food grade edition of the dies and the plates. And so while we have these, you won't necessarily find these on the Spellbinders site. You'll only find them from us. And I threw the link up there for you. We also have the dies too to go along with it.
Okay. And one thing that I really like about these embossing folders, and they're a standard size, so they're large enough that you could do additional things other than just cookies, but they do come in larger sizes for those of you that do cakes as well. But with the Icing Images Spellbinders embossing folders, it actually gives you 2 folders in one. So one side you have a scroll that I'm going to be utilizing on this cookie. But if you open it up and fold it, you get a totally different pattern. So it's 2 for 1. So this one is actually stars and scrolls and Christmas ornaments. Okay. And the way that works is you take your smart sheet paper, spray it with paper potion lightly to condition it. And I do that about 8 to 10 inches away from the paper and give it several sprays. And I've already conditioned this one. And you can see how flexible it is. It's almost like fabric. And you've got a smooth side and a textured side. You can utilize either one. Now, I will tell you, when printing on the smart sheets, I prefer printing on the smooth side because it gives me more of a high definition look. Okay. So once I get that paper conditioned, I put it into the embossing folder. And then I run that through the embossing machine. And I have a Sizzix brand. I also have a Spellbinder. So it's whatever brand that you want. They're about $125, $150. So just try looking around at Hobby Lobby, Michael's. You can get them on Amazon. There's a number of different places. Okay.
So for those of you who don't know what that is, before, I guess before the electronic cutters were big, we used die cutters, and it's just a machine that kind of just rolls these boards through. Oh, look at that. So there's
I just happen to have one.
There we go. Yeah, so people can understand what that is.
So it's a heavy piece of equipment, but it is all manual, if that makes sense. So you don't have to worry about any computer programs, anything like that. Okay. I can get my 5-year-old grandson to do these as well. That's how easy it is. Okay. So I'm going to show you. It's simply putting, and these plates come with it. It's called sandwiching. Okay. So again, I put the smart sheet into the folder, place it into the embossing machine. And I'm sorry, I don't have much room in here. So I just simply run it through with a crank of a handle. Comes out the other side. And then my sheet that I just put through there is my embossed sheet. And that's what I'm going to be utilizing on this cookie. And I don't know if you can see the texture on this.
No, you may have to angle it a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Now we're starting to see it. Yep. There you go.
You see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Beautiful.
And it will keep that texture even after I place it onto the cookie with royal icing. I don't take this sheet off of the cookie. It stays on the cookie. And if you have not tried this, it tastes absolutely like nothing. Okay. So it's not going to affect the flavor of your cookie or your royal icing or your cakes for that matter. Okay. All right. So the way that I apply that, I've got a mess going on here, is I simply take my royal icing, apply it to the cookie. And I don't have to be very precise when I'm doing this. So it's relatively quick and easy to do. Okay. And you can see that I'm not even going to the edges of the cookie. Now, with the embossing sheet that I just completed, there's two different sides that you can select from. You can get the debossing or the embossing. That just means that you're flipping the paper over to whatever design that you want on the top of your cookie. I just simply lay it onto the top of that royal icing. Press gently to make sure that that royal icing is going into all of the grooves on that smart sheet. Spread it out. Okay. And then I can turn this over, press down a little bit. And I want that royal icing to come all the way to the edge of my cookie. And you can see it coming out there. Now, I can clean it up now around the edges if I want to, or I can leave it just like that and allow it to dry. And there's two ways that you can allow this to dry. Okay. You can just turn it over, set it off to the side, and let it dry on its own. Or you can put it in the food dehydrator at 95 degrees for about 45 minutes. And then that will give you enough dry time to where you can actually go in with your dry dusting and really hit those highlights on this piece of embossed smart sheet to pick up those designs. Okay. And so again, this one is now dry. The magic of television now, or video.
Woo-hoo!
This is cookie that is dry to touch. And my embossing is perfect.
Can you angle it up a little bit so they can see how it looks?
Okay.
Angle it the other way towards you. Bring it close to the camera. Sorry.
You sure are needy tonight.
I know, I'm very needy. I want everyone to see how beautiful it is. Angle it kind of away. It's hard to, it needs some shadow. There we go.
Well, they're going to be able to see it because I'm going to dry dust on it.
Cool beans.
Okay. All right. So let me show you how that works. So you can take any color of dry dusting that you want, whatever your theme is for your cookie. Okay. And I'm going to utilize, this is one from the Sugar Art. It's a sterling pearl called Oyster. And I'm using what's called a blending brush. And I get these off of Amazon. They come in, I think it's 12 to a pack. And each one of the handles is a different color so that I can make sure that I stay in that family of colors with whatever brush I'm using so that it doesn't transfer the colors and smear them on my next cookie. Okay. And this is really quick Can you start to see that now? Okay. Can you see that, Deb? All right. So as you can see, now you can see the textured area that's on this embossed sheet. And again, the beauty of that smart sheet is that pattern is never going to vary on this cookie. It's going to maintain that. Okay. And so then I take another piece of embossed smart sheet and I've cut that out into the form of an ornament. Okay. And then I'm simply going to attach that to the top of that cookie.
Oh, wow. I like the way it comes together.
And now you have more of a dimensional cookie, right? It's really raised off of there. But I'm going to take that a step further. And I'm actually going to use my bling highlighter again. And I'm going to use my high-tech tool now. This is my gloved finger, so. And then I'm just going to go across that pattern and pick up the highlights. Okay. And you can put as much or as little as you want on there. Okay. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then what I did on the other one is I took some of the liquid bling highlighter to do more accents on it. Okay. And then one of my favorite things to do is taking the wafer paper and painting the bling highlighter onto the wafer paper. And I've actually done that on this piece here with some of the gold. And you can see that this is a scrap piece of wafer paper that I painted gold, right? Don't ever throw your scraps away because you can use those for other things. And then I take that highlighted piece of wafer paper and I use a die cut to cut out a bow. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay.
I love that.
And
So
then what I would do is take some Little Honey's glue. Okay. Sorry, there's a delay on my end. I don't know if you're seeing that. The Little Honey's glue.
You can see it.
Okay. A little bit goes a long way. So just remember that. So then I would just take a small amount. I'm going to put a little dot onto there. And then I'm going to attach my bow. And then allow that to dry. And that cookie is also now done. Okay.
Easy.
Easy breezy. But it looks like you spent a lot of time on them. But they're relatively quick. You can add these as a showpiece cookie to your cookie set. And people will think you've worked really hard on it. And you can charge more for it.
Yeah, and it saves you so much time. I mean, it's a gorgeous cookie, and it takes you like no time at all. And how much would you pay for something like that?
They will go anywhere from $8 to $10 each, depending on what area of the country you're in.
Wow.
Because they are showstopper cookies, right?
Yeah, that's gorgeous. That's it. It takes you about what, 20 minutes to do that?
If that. And once you've done it a couple of times, it goes even faster than that.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've got two very detailed cookies that took you really no time at all to do.
Right.
But they look fabulous, especially with other cookies that you put them in with.
Mm-hmm.
You could do different color ornaments on your cookies.
I like that.
And on this one, I actually dusted it with the silver bling highlighter.
Oh yeah, that pattern is gorgeous. Like angle that pattern a little more. Let me see.
Oh, to me?
There we go. Oh yeah, there you go. Hold it right there. Look at that pattern, guys. Oh my gosh, that looks like so like non-edible.
And it's all edible.
Yeah, it's just, oh wow, that's amazing.
And the thing that I love is no matter how many of them you do, they're all going to look the same.
Right.
And when you're doing parchment paper for embossing, when you pull that parchment off, you never know what your cookie is going to look like. You could
Yeah.
have craters, you could have part of your icing fall off. And so with this technique and these products, there's no variation.
Yeah, that's pretty
Okay.
amazing.
And the way that I got the red on to these ornaments, once I cut them out with that pattern on there, I used the Simi color splash
Ah, yep.
and some dilution solution in my airbrush.
That's
And so you can make any color that you want because her colors are very mixable. And she gives you a detailed sheet on how to make colors. But then you can play around and mix your own, get whatever colors you like. And then you can get beautiful colors that don't fade.
Here's the link for that splash. I've been throwing up links. Awesome. That's great. What do y'all think? I mean,